Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our session on Python programming. We are discussing iterative constructs. Now that we have seen all the three types of loops, it's time for us to discuss some related functions. Today, to begin with, I'm going to discuss one very interesting function called as zip. Now, what exactly it is? Okay, and where do we use it? How do you use it? Let's explore. So, two functions I plan to cover up today before we go ahead with nested loops. The first function is zip. So let's quickly jump on to understand what that zip is. Don't confuse this zip with the zip archive, zip files that you have in your systems. So that zip has nothing to do with this zip. So let's understand what is this concept of zip function. So it's a built-in function, so you don't have to import anything. Allows us to use for loops for visiting multiple sequences in parallel. So I have two lists, or if I have two tuples. Now, if I tell you, okay, visit all elements in the two list. So in that case, you'll have to take two different loops. First, you'll visit through the first element set of elements. Second, you'll visit the second set of elements. But here, these two sequence, it could be list, it could be any sequence, can be traversed in parallel. Okay, during the same loop. So you don't really have to, and it will actually create a sequence of tuples with elements from respective sequences. The basic operation zip takes one or more sequence as an argument. So it will take, let's say list is a sequence. So it takes two lists as an argument and returns a series of tuples that pairs up parallel items taken from the sequence. That means if I have two lists, first item from first list and first item from second list, second item from second list and second item from first list. So it will create those tuples of parallel items from both the sequences. Both means any number of sequences. It accepts several sequences such as list and arrays. We haven't seen arrays, but it can also take in any sequence, even arrays, and returns list of tuples. Now, each of these tuple in the list contains one element from each sequence at that particular index. That means, suppose if I talk about these two sequences, X and Y, so 1 and 4, then 2 and 5, and then 3 and 6. If you look at this zip function, it creates a list of tuples with corresponding elements from both the sequences. So first sequence, that means we are talking about these two, then these two, then these two, and you can zip as many number of sequences as you want. It's not like we can zip only two sequences and so on. If no parameters are passed to zip, it returns an empty iterator. Now, when I use the word iterator, henceforth in all programming language, think about iterator as an object, or it is an object that knows how to traverse through that particular collection. So it is an iterator will enable you to iterate over the sequence, visit all elements inside the sequence. If a single iterable is passed to zip, it returns an iterator of one tuple, meaning the number of elements each tuple is one. That means if I pass only one sequence to this particular function zip, so it will create sequence of tuples, but each tuple will contain only one element. But if I pass two, it returns an iterator of tuple with ith tuple containing ith element from each of the arguments. So if I pass three sequences, three lists, suppose I value 0, so 0th element from all the three lists, then first element from all the three lists. So it's your choice how many iterables you would like to pass. Iterate stops when the shortest input iterable is exhausted. So one list had 4 elements, other had 10 elements. So in that case, when the shortest iterable has been exhausted, 4 elements have been exhausted, it will stop. So it will give only 4 pair of 4 tuples. We can unzip the zip values using the same zip method and passing the arguments containing the zip values. How can we do that? That's done by using asterisk. So what we do is, suppose I have a list and a tuple, I zip them together, and I wanted to unzip and get this list and a tuple back or list back. So I can just say zip and just put a star asterisk before that zipped argument. So if I do that, it'll unzip and give me the first and the second list or tuple, whatever it is. But there is also something called a zip longest, which I'll introduce later. Let's jump on to the examples first. Here we go. Here we are. So this we discussed yesterday. Here we are. So we have fruit list, apple, mango, guava, orange, chiku, what it is, and there is a price list. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fruits, and there are 5 prices which are there. So I have two different lists. One is fruit list, another is price list. So if I have to cycle through all of them, I'll say for fruit in fruit list, print the fruit. For price in price list, print the price. That's how we normally do that. But then if I wanted to traverse both of them at one time, the way to do that would have been something like this. For counter in the range 0 to length of price list will give you 5. So 0 to 5 means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 5 elements. Then we're saying price of fruit list of counter. Counter for the first time is 0. So fruit list of 0 and price list of 0. So fruit list of 0 apple hai and price list of 0 to 200 hai. Fruit list of 1 mango hai and price list of 1 70 100 hai. Then fruit list of 2 orange hai and price list of 2 60 hai. So look at the efforts that we are putting in. So we have taken a counter in the range of 0 to price list, length of price list. So that is 5. And then I'm using that counter as an index to access element from the sequence and the sequence. That means ith element from both the sequences have been accessed. Fruit list mein se ith element, price list mein se bhi ith element, so that I can traverse them in parallel. So if I have to put in so much effort to traverse them in parallel, it doesn't really make sense. Let's jump over here and see. Look at this. Price of apple is 200, price of mango is 700, orange is so and so, so and so, so and so. So we've done all the efforts. Now this could have been simplified by using zip function. I could say price list, zip fruit list and price list. So when I zip this fruit list and price list, I get a new type of data that is zip type of data. But if I print this data, let's see what is there. Oh, it's an object. So I want to print the contents of that particular object. So I say for elements in price list, print element. So let's see what's the first element that it prints. Apple 200. Second, mango 700. Third, orange 60. Fourth, guava 120. Fifth, chiku 45. And when it's exhausted, it comes out. There is a simpler way to print also. We'll see that as well. Let me see if I've done it anywhere over here. No. So let me do it. Suppose I wanted to print all these items, correct? All these items. So instead of writing this, I could have directly said element. Let's see what will happen if I write in this fashion. Where all the elements have been printed. Now I say print star elements. And when I do that, it says Chiku 45. Oh, that's only the last element that has got printed. So it is not giving me all the elements which are present. Okay, it's not giving me all the elements. It has only given me the last element, that is Chiku 45 was the last element in the sequence. Only that has got printed. Okay. That is after I have iterated over it. But suppose if I write the same statement and if I don't write this statement, then let's see. Okay, here we'll understand some properties. So I am going to create, oh, I said zip kya hai aapka? Oh, I passed the wrong value to it. Yeah, zip price list. Let's save and debug the program once again. Okay. So we are at line number 34 now. Let's see. It has given you all the sequences. So it's apple 200, mango so and so, orange so and so, guava so and so, chiku so and so. All the elements are correctly got printed just by writing one statement. And you wanted them to be printed one below other. That is also possible. Let us comment out this and comma. Separate it in new line. Let's run this particular code. Now watch it. Here all the elements have got printed. Now I say star fruit list set slash n. Now when I say star fruit list set slash, nothing has got printed. Now you will be wondering why is it so? Watch it once again. Huh? When I do not run this loop, and if I write this particular statement, the behavior is different. Watch it. If I am at line number 34 once again, now if I print, I'm getting the elements. Okay. But I run through this for loop, and then if I try and print, I don't get the results. The reason for that is the behavior of an iterator. Now, iterator is an object that knows how to traverse. So why, even when I'm using for loop, it is iterating over that sequence and reaching to the end. Now, uske aage agar dobara aap traverse kare jaoge, you already reached at the end. There is nothing more to be fetched. So it is an iterator which we haven't reset, and this iterator is. If I tell you the internal implementation using C++ or C, it is like forward moving iterator. So that iterator which will traverse only in forward direction. So if you start from first place, second, third, fourth, fifth, and that's it. Done. You cannot get it back. So you have to be very careful while you are iterating over this by using these techniques, the one that we have seen right now. So both are possible. You could cycle in this fashion. You could access the elements from that particular zip object in this fashion. But any one technique you use, then you have exhausted the elements from that particular sequence. You cannot access them again. But if I have to, we'll see what can be done. But that's how the behavior of something which is very important. Otherwise, what will happen is you may be under impression कि मैंने एक बार ऐसे traverse किया और एक बार ऐसे traverse करूँगा या दोबारा for loop लिखूँगा और traverse करूँगा. That's not going to happen. You have already exhausted. Now, we have a list of elements, but note this list contains integers, the other list contains strings and or alphabets, and the third list contains special characters. And we have zipped all the three lists. Not necessary that we have to pass only two sequences to the zip function. So in this case, we had passed only two sequences. Not necessary. I can pass three sequences of three different types as well. Perfect. And if I now want to print this, let's jump over here and see. Let's print them one after another. So we are debugging the code. And let's print it. ये आपका first element, second element, third element, fourth element, and fifth element. Watch it. अभी यहाँ 9 elements है, whereas over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now 5 में क्या आएगा? Integer 5, e and ampersand. Now what will happen is if I try and access next, it has exhausted. So the shortest sequence for this, and this was the longest sequence. If the shortest sequence has been exhausted, the pairing that it had done for the elements is also done over. So the rest of the elements are not paired with any value. The rest of the elements are not paired with any value. So it will iterate over only till the shortest sequence has not been exhausted. So again, I have 9 elements. Here I have 5 elements. So one is a list, whereas the other is a tuple. So it has to be sequenced. Not necessarily all the sequences have to have same type, should contain same type of data, nothing like that. While this was a list of string integers, this was list of strings. This was list of strings again. Here I have integers ka list hai and tuple of alphabets hai or strings hai. Different types can also be zipped together. So I have a new list, and if I cycle through them, 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, and 5E. So different types of elements have also been clubbed together. So here I have a list. Again, I have a list. And what am I doing? I'm saying zip a list and a list one, two list, and strict is equal to false. Now, earlier I did not say anything as strict is equal to false. Now let's see what happens if I use this parameter as strict is equal to false. What is this strict? What difference will it make if I say strict is equal to false? So if I say strict is equal to false, and I'm trying, it says error. क्या कहता है? Zip takes no keyword argument. Okay. So I'm trying to traverse and it's generating an error. I'm trying to traverse and generating an error over here. Let's try and once again. Okay. If I'm trying to traverse, it generates an error. What if I say strict is equal to true? What difference will it make?
Error won't come.
Here we go. So here we say strict is equal to false. Now let's say strict is equal to true. And then we'll understand what that behavior for strict is. Now I'll jump the code once again to that line. We are here. I say strict is equal to true. It says no, type zip takes no keyword argument. So what is happening over here? What is an error that is generating? Let's quickly jump to the documentation to find out more about it. So if I come to the documentation, python.org, and if I look at documents, the documentation, Python doc, and we are looking at a function called as zip. So we're looking at built-in function zip. It says strict is equal to false and strict is equal to true. So what does it say? Iterate over several items in parallel, producing tuples from with tuples with items from each one. Okay, that's okay. But what is the concept of strict? What difference does it make? So here it says it's often used in cases where iterables are assumed to be of equal length. Iterators are assumed to be of equal length. यहाँ 3 है और यहाँ भी 3 है. It is recommended to use strict is equal to true in that particular option. So if I say strict is equal to true when the iterables are of equal length. Now in this case, are the iterables of equal length? यहाँ 9 elements है और यहाँ 5 elements है. Iterables are not of equal length. Okay. So strict is equal to true has failed. It generates an error. What error it is generating? Type error. Okay, it should generate value error. It says it raises value error if one iterable is exhausted before the next. Okay, let us see once again why a different type of error has been generated. And earlier, what type of error was there? This is something that should be allowed. Let's jump over and see. What's an error? Let's say it says zip takes no keyword argument. Instead of a keyword argument, have I written it wrong way? तो bug तो है, but ये silent हो जाना चाहिए. Without stick to the true, any bug that will result in iterable of different lengths will be silenced. So if I say zip equal to false, okay, without this, it will be silenced. Just run this code. So there was a bug. What was the bug? That these two lists are not of equal size. So that bug was silenced. क्या कहता है? Without sticking to argument, any bug that results in an iterable of different lengths will be silenced, possibly manifesting as a hard to find bug in other parts of the program. So if the two lists are not of equal length, it will be silenced. Now let's do one thing. Let's again say strict is equal to true. Let's again say strict equal to true and also ensure that both the lists are of same size. Correct? 5 and 5. Now in this case, what happens? Let's see. Okay.
False the answer.
Sir, you took false.
First defect. Yeah?
So it was false.
Okay, secure true. Let's debug the code once again. क्या बात है? Still getting the same error. So even that example is something to do with the version of the this thing. Let's see which version is this. Well, looks like changes in the new version. And which version do we have? So let's go to command prompt and run with 3.11. That's 3.11. it's working. So it was nothing to do with the syntax, it was with the version. Probably here in this, I have a older version. Let's see which version do I have. It's 3.8, and version 3.8 is not supporting that particular parameter. So it was about the version, not about the syntax. What I've written is correct. I could say false also. We have false कहूँगा तो भी दिक्कत नहीं है. Let's say if I say false, then also there is no problem. But the two lists are of different size. Here I go 3, 5, 4, 5, 6, 5, and I say strict is equal false, no problem. But moment I say strict is equal true, it will make sure that both the lists have to be of iterables have to be of same length. So it should now generate an error. अभी आ रहा है. It's working right. I hope you understood. So here the two lists are of different length. Here also the two iterables are of different length. When I say strict is equal false, so it is not forcing us to have both the iterables of same length. But when I say strict is equal true, it is forcing us to have both the iterables of same length. Here in 3 and here also 3, strict equal true works fine. 3 and 3 strict equal false works fine. But 3 and 5 strict equal false also work, because I'm saying it's not strict for both the sequences to be of the same length. But if I say strict is equal true, and if I take both the sequence of different length, it will generate an error. And what error it generates? Value error. So what we had written in the program is also right. The only thing that we'll have to mention is version 3.8 is not supporting it. That's the reason we are getting an error. So I was wondering, ऐसा क्या हो रहा है? It was version error. So let's mention it over here. But let's figure out which version was this particular concept introduced. Not written, but we know it doesn't work in 3.8. Let's say 3.11 ये काम कर रहा है. So what we could also do is, just to verify that, let's open up some different versions of Python. You know why I'm scrolling, because I need a compiler where we can change the version. तो यहाँ पे 3.6 है, 3.8 में काम नहीं कर रहा है, तो 3.6 में भी काम नहीं करेगा. Likewise, I wanted to change see the visualizer.
Sir, is there any limit for the lists?
For the
List
what limit?
number of lists. I mean,
No,
for
no,
the zip.
no, no limit. Okay, so older versions are not supporting, only the newer version is supporting. So we have made a note of it. I have made parameter strict is supporting version 11. So strict is equal to true means it is strictly necessary that both the iterable should be of same length. And strict is equal to false means the list can be of different length as well. So let's comment this thing out because it's not supporting under 3.8. Oh, I can do one thing. I can change the version of this interpreter to 3.11. How can I do that? Let me see. There is an option available. Yeah, 3.8, can you see that? 3.8. We can change the version. Let's try and do that. Python interpreter. A default there has spider ka Python interpreter. Now let's use 3.11. Let's say apply and OK. Now let's run the same code. Now it will generate error and hopefully it will not generate error anymore. Let's see. अरे वो 3.11 integrate नहीं हो रहा इसके साथ. It says doesn't have Python kernel module or right version installed. Without this module, not possible to create a console. Conda installs Spider 3.2. You can still you can install activating environment if necessary in the running system. So doesn't have Spider kernel module or the right version of install of its install. So we could not change it. I'll have to upgrade Python, looks like. I go to preferences. And I go to the default version. Keep in mind, default version over here is 3.8. Here I was trying to use the latest one, 3.11. Let's see whether this path was correct. In case if this path is wrong, that will also create a problem. Let's go to over here. Let's see whether that path is right. The path is right. Yeah, double question about that. Since my name contains space. I have multiple versions of Python installed. And I have Python bodies. Path is correct. Let's restart Spider. But that's how you change the interpreter. I'm just restarting Python. We're trying to customize it, nothing else. Restart Spider. We'll understand over here in the console immediately. No, it's not taking that version. So let's stick to version tools, preferences. But you could check it outside. The way I showed you, you could go to command prompt and you can check it. And interpreter, say default version, apply, okay, and restart the console. It should start. Yes, sir. Other thing that we probably could have done is reinstall Python, check for the newer version of Python, but then it's not necessary. The version is not supporting that doesn't mean here it's Python 3.8 right now, and 3.11 is supporting this additional feature. Okay, let's keep this thing aside now. Now here we go. What we have? We have a list of names, and I have scores. These were the scores of Amit in the last 5 papers, exams, or 5 papers. This was the list, and that was score of Jay, and this was the score of Leela, and these were the scores of Sita, and so on. They have appeared for 5 subjects. Doesn't matter. So Amit will get associated with this list. Jay will get associated with the second list. Leela will get associated with the third list. And Sita will get associated with the fourth list. That's how it will do. And then when I'm trying to traverse them simultaneously, I'm saying for counter in the range length of student name, and 4 students hai to, and name of counter, and then marks ke liye, let's say for marks in scores of counter, and then marks. Oh, that's so very difficult for us to access it. So if I run this particular code till here, just to print the name of the Ferdo and his marks, I'll have to use 2 different loops. First loop will cycle over all the names, and for every name, we'll run a loop that will take us through the marks of that particular person. So how much efforts we have to put in? The outer loop will enable you. Suppose if I just take the outer loop, suppose I comment this thing out, I comment this thing out. This will print only the names. Let's do it once and see. This will print only the names. Okay. So you have to be okay. Let's run the code once again. If I run this particular code, it has printed only the names. Can you see this? Amit, Jay, Leela, and Sita. What did we do for that purpose? We said for counter in the range, length of student name, that is length of student name is 1, 2, 3, 4. 0 से count करेगा 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Range में हमने stop value दिया तो 0 से start करेगा by default. And student of counter, that means student of 0, student of 1, student of 2, student of 3 करते हुए access कर लिया. Along with that, I also wanted to print their marks, but that's not going to help. If I just write this, it will print the name and just it will say mark. Mark kaha hai matlab? Mark kaha hai? Mark kaha hai? Now to print those marks, again I'll have to use a loop, so that I will cycle through all the elements inside this list. So all the marks will get printed. So there was nesting of loops is what I had to do. All this trouble can be very easily solved. देखो ये name Amit, ये उसके marks, name Jay, उसके marks, name Leela, उसके marks, name Sita, उसके marks. We have done that. But all this problem can be very easily solved or taken care of. How? By zipping it together. I could just say zip student name scores strict is equal to true. Let's keep this strict is equal to true aside for a moment because our Python, the spider is not supporting it right now. I'll just keep this strict to aside and we start debugging from here. Here we go. The name zip names and score. So I say for element in name score, I'll print the element. Let's see what it prints. So let's debug the code. Let's create a zip item. First, look at that Amit and the marks. Second, Jay and the marks. Third, Leela and the marks. Fourth, Sita and marks. It has cycled through all the elements. सारे आ गए. But अगर आपको अलग तरीके से print करना था, I could say for element in name scores, name is element of 0 and score is element of 1. Where this is element of 0 and this is element of 1. Means ये element का 0 part है और ये 1 part है. Tuple है ना? So let's see how it prints. So now if I want to print it, we'll print in a better way. No question, we had discussed it. If we iterate over it once, you cannot iterate it again. So I will comment this thing out. So to iterate it all over again. This time we'll iterate from here. Right? Let's do that. It's forward moving iterator. You can iterate it only once. So पहला element again name Amit, उसका score. Name Jay, उसका score. Name Leela, उसका score. Name Sita, उसका score. Everything has got printed. I'm debugging so it may appear in that fashion. If I directly run the code, it will appear quite better. So let's run this code directly and see. देखो ये name Amit. I should just make sure that I write print so that while printing it print properly. Let's do it again. Watch it. Name Amit, uska score. Name Jay, uska score. Leela, uska score. Sita, uska score. Everything is perfect. Way it has got printed. But then we could have handled it in a much better way. What could we do? We could unzip it. Here I say print. I'll comment out these two statements. ये सारा statements में comment out कर alternate ways ऐसे दो. And what do I do? I say name and score unzip कर रहा of name scores. Name scores में आपका zip object है. उसके अंदर दो lists है. So first will get assigned to name and second item will get assigned to score from each of the tuples. This is list of tuples. When I say zip, I get list of tuples. So first element from that tuple is the name. Second element from the tuple is the score. So I'll print name and score. So let's by debug, let's directly run the program and see the last output, how it gets printed. Isn't it fine? Neat and clean. Amit is first score, Jay is first score, Sita is first score, and so on. If you don't want those brackets as well for the score, just put star over here. All the more better. Watch it. Good. Without brackets. Without brackets. So Sita, so you don't want to go on to the next line. That's also okay. Same line में करना था आपको, वो भी चलेगा. Set end is equal to space. एक ही लाइन में प्रिंट करेंगे. अमित उसका स्कोर, जय उसका स्कोर, लीला उसका स्कोर, सीता उसका स्कोर. After how you like to print it. So that was about function called as zip. Any questions so far? Arrange underscore two. I'll call this arrange underscore two. I'll just share this file. Have you all understood this concept of zip and its utility? If the subject names are there, Monica, then we'll have to zip that list of subject names and the marks. So we haven't got the names of the subject. Here we had name and the subject. But if you wanted to have subject names and marks, so you'll have to have two lists. One is the name of subject, another is the list of marks. That you can zip together.
सर तीनों भी हो सकते हैं ना?
एक में नाम ही हो सकते हैं कि एलिमेंट. One
तीन
element
लिस्ट
cannot list pair with 3 subjects or 5 subjects के साथ कैसे list होगा? पेयर वाला।
सर आपने बोला कि if we iterate over it once we cannot do it again.
वो क्या?
If we iterate once
हाँ
हम लोग उसको वापस रीसेट नहीं कर सकते,
हाँ,
इंडेक्स उसी पे रहेगा,
और आगे क्या बोले?
इंडेक्स वही रहेगा, लास्ट इंडेक्स।
लास्ट नहीं, वी आर एग्जॉस्टेड, आगे भी नहीं रहेगा, वी कैन नॉट इवन एक्सेस एनी मोर एलिमेंट्स, इट इज एग्जॉस्टेड। कुछ पूछ रहे हैं आप या बता रहे हो यार? रीट्रेट
पूछ रहा हूँ
क्या पूछ रहे हो, बता।
सर, यही पूछ रहा था कि लास्ट इंडेक्स स्टोर रहता है या फिर एग्जॉस्ट होता है।
नहीं, यह है एग्जॉस्टेड, सो 4 एलिमेंट्स है एंड यू हैव इटरेटेड ओवर 4 एलिमेंट्स, so end is beyond the 4th element. The next time if you try and access, you will not be in a position to access anything beyond that.
सर ये किसके लिए था?
For zip, any item that we zip, it uses an iterator. It's a forward moving iterator, so it automatically iterates over all elements. So when you have iterated over all elements and then you try and iterate it over again, you cannot, because you already exhausted, consumed all the elements from that sequence. Doubt have we?
नहीं सर।
क्या समझे, बता दो।
सर जिप फंक्शन यूज किया तो वो एक इटरेटर यूज करता है, जिसके वजह से हम लोग एक ही बार इटरेट कर सकते हैं और लास्ट में जाके वो इंडेक्स उसका एंड इंडेक्स आ जाता है, मतलब लास्ट इंडेक्स प्लस लास्ट इंडेक्स प्लस 1 हो जाता है।
Beyond the last element, finish.
यस हाँ,
हाँ,
तो वो एग्जॉस्ट हो सकता है, तो एग्जॉस्ट हो जाता है फिर हम लोग उसका एक्सेस नहीं कर सकते।
correct. But there is a technique through which we can revisit. How? We will see it again. But by default, ऐसे नहीं हो सकता. I shared that particular file with you. Now that we have taken that, and that was about a zip function that we had to discuss. There is a variation of zip function that is available, which I did not discuss. And let me take an example of it. Surprisingly, let me see if I have code for the same. I have one example. The pairing of corresponding elements from the sequence was done till the time you did not exhaust the shortest sequence. But you don't want to stop when the shortest sequence has been exhausted. That means in one sequence I have 4 elements, in another sequence I have 5 elements. So in the 4 elements have been exhausted, the 5th element from other sequence will not be paired with anything. So I want till the time all elements from the longest sequence have not been exhausted, till that time it should create a pair. So in that case, we have another variation for it, and that is something called as zip longest. So we have been using zip, now we have something called as zip longest, and that again comes from iterator tool. Zip should only be used with unequal length inputs when you don't care about trailing unmatched value for the bigger or longer iterable. So when you do not really mind if the additional elements which are present in the longer iterable, if they are lost, you don't mind, you could use zip. If those values are important, that means the values which are lost are important, then you can use from iterator tool something called as zip longest. I had asked you to visit iterator tools yesterday. Did anybody go through this iterator tool? मैंने बताया था शायद कल के iterator tool visit करो. Let me know how many of you had visited that page to see iterator tools. Pick करो अगर आपने किया था visit तो. ऐसे नहीं चलेगा ना. If I'm introducing to a module, I cannot discuss every feature in that module. कुछ self learning भी चाहिए. You have to visit, you have to read about it. I told you number of things are there. Permutation, combination, कुछ बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. पता अगर हो ये आपके पास अवेलेबल है तो next time you will not end up writing logic for it. You can. Python is best known for its support in terms of richness of functionality that it provides. And if you are unaware of that functionality that Python provides, then Python is just like any other language. अगर आप ही को सब कुछ लिखना है तो. So if you want to make the best use of Python, explore the modules that I am identifying. There are more than 200 modules, but then there is a reason why I am taking up these modules, because they are the one that will be required very often. तो कम से कम आज तो इटरेटर टूल्स मॉड्यूल को विजिट कीजिएगा।
सर हेलो
बोलिए।
सर, वो जिप लॉन्गेस्ट उसमें है सर, इटरेटर टूल्स में देखा
हाँ
था
है
मैंने।
ना, इसीलिए तो कहा था।
मतलब ये पार्ट है क्या इटरेटर टूल्स का?
यस, इट्स ऑल अबाउट इटरेटिंग ना,
यस यस।
it's all about iterating. And you'll understand more about iterators in further languages. All languages at the end of the day are meant for achieving some objective, and a lot of objectives are common. So you'll have the same functionalities in different language. Java will give you, C++ will give you, and over a period you'll understand the internal implementation as well. But यहाँ अगर कुछ रेडीमेड मिल रहा है आपको और वो अगर आप नहीं पढ़ोगे, so you will unnecessarily find it difficult to express your ideas. More ready-made features you know, you'll find it easy to express your ideas. So make sure that all of you go through this iterative tool. I'll share the link once again. Let's look at zip longest. If the iterables are of unequal length, missing values are filled with fill value. So one iterable has 4 elements, other iterable has 10 elements. So 6 are missing. So you can say जहाँ corresponding value नहीं रहेगा, you'll fill it with some value. How long will you do it? Till the time the largest iterable has not been exhausted. So I just have to say zip longest and I can pass the list. They can be of unequal length, and missing elements from the second or the shorter iterable will be replaced with or will be filled with fill value parameter. So let's see an example. Here we go. We have these two, the first list and the second tuple. The second tuple is the second sequence list or tuple of previous is shorter than the first sequence. But when I zip, the next two elements do not have a corresponding element in the tuple second sequence, they will be lost. So let's jump over here and see what it prints. So if I print it, so we have 1A, 2B, and 3C. So what we have lost is 4 and 5. So I could import iterable, and instead of that, instead of just saying zip, I'll say zip longest X and Y. And once I do that, if I print it, watch it, what has happened. It has created 1A, 2B, 3C, 4 none, 5 none. Oh, I don't want none. I want it to be filled with some value. So I can use an attribute called as fill value. I say fill value hash. Your choice with what value you would like to fill. So all the missing values have been filled with this hash. Earlier by default was none, but you could give with what value would you like to fill it up. Now here I have a string that's also in iterable A, B, C, D, E, F. 5, 6, 7 elements. Yeah, apple, banana, cat, dog, egg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 egg. Now when I say zip longest again over here, and I have not specified the fill value, तो none आ जाएगा. तो F के लिए कुछ नहीं है none, G के लिए कुछ नहीं है none, but did not exhaust when the smallest list, this was a smaller one, iterable, when they got exhausted, it did not stop. All the missing elements for corresponding missing elements for F and G were replaced with none none. I could give fill value star star. So what is the fill value that we give? Whatever is missing, there the stars have been added. Here I have 5 values, here also I have 5 values. So that's perfect. So जितने digits है उतने ही है. So nothing, no problem. 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, 5E, perfectly to print everything. Okay. So it has existed with all the elements. You could have directly printed list of result as well. Nothing much was to be done. So that was about zip longest. Have you understood this concept of zip longest? Quick feedback. Okay. We'll take a short 5 minutes break. It's 20:55, 8:55, 9 o'clock we will start. A short 5 minutes break and we start again. Hello everybody. Let's continue. So we saw the interesting function called as zip longest. The next thing that we plan to explore is a function called as enumerate. Now, what is this concept of enumerate all about? So let's understand what this enumerate is and how do we use this particular concept, or what's the need for using this particular concept called as enumerate. Okay. Don't confuse this with enumeration, which is available in C, C++. Those in some of you who must have already explored it. Okay, so this is nothing to do with the concept of enumeration that is available in other languages. Totally different. iterator concept remains the same everywhere. Enumeration is totally different in different languages. Here, let's understand what is this concept of enumerator. Let me open our presentation. So what is enumerate? Enumerate function returns a generator object. Now, be very careful about these new terms. I'm going to talk in more details about iterators later. I'm going to talk more about generators later. Generators, decorators, these are the most powerful closures. These are the most powerful constructs in Python. And the earlier you understand them, better it is, because now other languages like C++ have also started providing it. And believe me, it's too very difficult to understand those concepts when you talk about other languages. If you're conceptually clear about this concept in Python, then learning those similar concepts in other language becomes very easy, because you know at the end of the day what I'm going to achieve or what is my objective. And the easiest form of generators and iterators and everything that I've seen is in Python. It helps you to understand the concept, and then later you can do some permutation combination of this concept with other languages. So generator object. So when I use enumerator, it will give me one object. That's a generator object. As the name says, generator generates something. So it doesn't hold the values beforehand. It will generate values on the fly. So that's the beauty of it. Say I have sequence of 100 numbers. So having sequence of 100 numbers, that means I'll have to make a provision to store the sequence of 100 numbers. But if I'm going to generate 100 numbers or 1 lakh numbers, I don't have to store them. I'm going to generate them. So a generator hai, which will generate the values, not store the values. At the end of the day, you're going to have the same result. Because even if I list of 1 to 1 lakh, when you cycle through elements, you'll get those 1 to 1 lakh elements. And even if I generate it over a period, the difference is not in the end result, but the performance in terms of memory. So the memory footprints of generators will be far lesser than your object, which will actually store the data. Generators normally will not store the data, they will store the logic that will decide how to generate the next element in the sequence. The generator, it will generate some elements in the sequence. So enumerator pairs items in an iterable with relative positions. So if I have an iterator, it could be list, it could be tuple, any ordered collection. If I have, it is an iterator that I have. And in every ordered collection, there will be some element which is first, which is second, which is third, and so on. So relative position of the first element is 0, then the 1, then 2. So it will create a pair like zip, but the pair will be with the elements inside that iterable with its position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with its position. It's a loop helper function that gives loop a counter for free. So I have to iterate over 5 elements inside a list, and I wanted to have a counter, first element, second element, third element, fourth element. So I can do it by enumerator, I'll get a counter for free. In some programs, we need the items to use plus offset as we go. So we want to know the offset. If pehla element hai, dusra element hai, tisra element hai. So in that case, you do not take a counter or something. It will come automatically to you. Traditionally, this was coded with a simple for loop that also keeps a counter for the current offset. So I can take, if I have to cycle through 4 items, I can say for counter in the range 0 to 4, means range of 4. And then whatever list or whatever I'm traversing, I'll print the counter and then the element. So that problem can now be taken care of by using this enumerator. So I have grocery list in which I have bread, milk, and butter, 3 elements inside the sequence. If I saw item in enumerate grocery, print item, I'll get 0 bread, 1 milk, 2 butter. So, or if I wanted to have them separately, I can just say for count item in enumerate grocery, that means I'm unpacking it. So count will be 0, item will be bread, count will be 1, item will be milk, count will be 2, item will be butter. But then I can also give the default start value. So when I say grocery, 100, and these were my grocery item, the bread will be 100, milk will be 201, and butter will be 102. So that's how you can generate with this enumerator. They themselves are also iterable, with each item being mentioned in the result tuple. So I say list enumerate A, B, C. So A will be paired with number 0, B will be paired with number 1, C will be paired with number 2. So let's see with the help of an example. Hopefully I was trying to
सर
uninstall.
लास्ट वेळेस घेतलं नव्हतं का
Pardon?
लास्ट वेळेसला येऊन तर घेतलं नव्हतं का इव्हन
घेतलास ना मेसेज. You must have missed the lecture. It's in the sequence of presentation में ही है. And this presentation has been created long time back. Okay,
Okay, sir.
good. This has been uninstalled. So what I did is just to see whether the new version of Python is available in this thing. So I went on to uninstall it. The latest version that I just now downloaded. Before we normally install any software, it's always advisable to delete all the previous settings that will be there. Like, watch it. What do? I go to C drive, users, app data, local. All the previous settings will normally be stored. wanted to do something different. I want something like dot spider अगर ऐसा कुछ है तो that will be storing its settings. Looks like it has completely got deleted. Yeah. Now this will have the previous settings for it. So it's better that if you uninstall a software, the previous settings are also deleted so it will not interfere with the new things, new installation that you're doing. So I just deleted the previous settings if any that is there, and then it will be the best time for us to install the software again. अगर आपको registry मालूम है तो you can clean up the registry also. Let it install. We will just go through that function. because we have ideally, I can give a demonstration on ideally as well while Spider is being installed. The only reason I'm trying to upgrade is just wanted to see if this 5.4 supports 5.4 supports new version of Python or not. That is the only thing that I wanted to check. So it looks like it is going to take long time. Let it work in the background. And meanwhile, we will explore enumerate, and I'll do it in ideally. I say ideally. No, let's do it on the command prompt. Hardly matters for us. Here Python 3.11 is there. We will explore this example of enumerate over the command prompt. Look at this. Suppose I have some grocery items. Yeah, it could be anything. Students, suppose this is students, and I have list of students. First is Anita, second is Sunita, and third is Nita. So these are three students. And if I want to print all the three students, what would I do? I'll run a for loop. I'll say for name in students, I'll say for name in students, I'll say print name. For name in student tab, print name. It will print all the names. It will iterate over them and print all the names. Anita, Sunita, Nita. But I wanted to have a counter. Anita is roll number first or second or what it is, then Sunita and then Nita. So I want to have a count. I want to have a mechanism through which I'll count the elements which are there. 1 Anita, 2 Sunita, 3 Nita. So instead of writing this, I'll just say over here enumerate. Enumerate students, and then I'll say print name. Now, if I do that, it prints, but does it print in the way we want? It said 0 Anita, 1 Sunita, 2 Nita. I don't want to start with 0. I would like to start with 1. So in that case, I can say comma 1 and then print name. Now, if I want to see 1 Anita, 2 Sunita, 3 Nita, I don't want the brackets either. No worries. If you don't want the brackets either, ये name की जगह कहिए स्टार टपल थे ना, टपल के अंदर क्या एलिमेंट्स आ गए 1 0 Anita 1 Sunita 2 Nita. You wanted to have comma between them या colon after them. ऐसा कुछ चाहिए and 0 से नहीं चाहिए 1 2 3 चाहिए. Okay, that's also possible. So I'll say student comma 1. That's my starting position. And then I'll say print the name. So watch it, print the name 1 Anita 2 Sunita 3 Nita. 1 के बाद आपको कोलन चाहिए. Okay, that's just a matter of printing. So you say star name, comma, separator, comma, separator is equal to colon. Now if I print this again, 0, 1, 2, I 0 से नहीं start करना, 1 से start करना. Do 1 this and then this. Again 1 and 2 से 3 meter. So you have a counter for free. Now suppose I wanted the counter separately and the number separately. So I can, in this particular case, I can unpack it. How? Instead of saying for name in numerator, I'll say counter comma name in numerator. And then over here, instead of printing only the name, I can just say counter comma name. I don't have to put star. That is also okay. So these are different ways in which we can use enumerator. It provides a counter for free. Either you can take this counter separately, or you can just say the element in that enumerator. You actually get tuples like what we have seen over here. So the first element is the counter, and second is the number, the element from that iterable. So it will associate every element inside the iterable with an index. By default, index is 0. Anita is at index 0. Sunita is at index 1. Nita is at index 2. Isn't it? So when I create a list, this is index 1, this is index 2, this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2. So same indexes gets associated, creates a tuple. I don't want these brackets, so I put asterisk over here, so it will unpack and remove the bracket. So you'll never understand whether it's a list or a tuple. You will get the elements. You do not want to start with 0, you want to start with 1, you can give the starting position. What your index you like? If you give 100, it is 100, 101, and 102, it will give you what is the starting position. So that was about enumerate. Any questions about enumerate? Have you understood this concept of enumerating?
If we add any text instead of number that in bracket,
No,
am
it's
I
always,
audible?
yeah. It's always the counter. It's a number. You cannot say ABC or something like that.
Okay.
ABC will ABC. Oh, I don't recollect. Let us check. So if I say, I don't think it will work. It says counter for free. So now it should be counter. So here instead of that, if I say A, that's what you mean?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I haven't tried that. You can understand. The str object cannot be interpreted as integer, so counter a integer ही चाहिए. So index, it's index, ना? It's about index. देखो ये क्या कहता है? It's about index.
Okay.
It pairs items iterable with its relative position.
Yes.
So position ABCD नहीं होगा. Position will be 0, 1, 2, 3. The index which is there. Okay. Any other question, anybody?
सर पहला उसका लाइन है कि इट रिटर्न्स जनरेटर ऑब्जेक्ट.
Okay.
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
understand that? Okay, I'll
Yes.
explain. I'll just give a glimpse because generator is quite an advanced topic. Will we make exact basic idea देता है explain करने के लिए. When I say it returns a generator, वो देखना है अगर आपको. So here I use this concept of enumerator. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
I use this concept of enumerator inside a loop. Not necessarily that I have to use inside a loop. Suppose if I had these students, you had a list, correct? There could be 3 or 30 elements, whatever is there. Now if I say enumerate students, if I say X is equal to enumerate students, suppose if I say X is that enumerate, I could very well still say for this in X is that enumerate of student. Huh? And I could still print the names of the students, print names. Again, so that X is nothing but this enumerate of student. Instead of writing this enumerate of students over here, I just said X. But the question is, what is X? So if I say type of X It's an object of class enumerator. Enumerate. What is this enumerate? It is a generator. What do you mean by generator? Means this is the final outcome. This is the final outcome. This outcome is not stored anywhere. These tuples are not stored anywhere. Actually, these are tuples. Actually, these are tuples. Actually, these are we print you in error because we have already cycled through it. Let's do it once again. Let's create this once again, and now let's cycle through it. Can you see these are tuples? Okay, पहला
Yes.
tuple क्या है 0 अनीता, second tuple क्या है 1 सुनीता, third tuple क्या है 2 नीता. So this pair of tuples are not stored anywhere. These pairs of tuples are generated as we iterate over that iterable. The generators are objects which will generate the sequence of values and not store the sequence of values. If it's a list, it will store a value. If it's a dictionary, it will store data. This will not store, rather using this list, it will generate these items. So X is actually a generator object that will generate the sequence of elements that are there. Here we have said something. Enumerate function returns a generator object. So what it returns is a generator object. The generator object is generating the sequence of elements as we iterate over it.
Sir, but that X will be stored, na?
X will be stored, but X will not store this data.
Yes, sir. Only X will be stored.
Only X will be stored. X will have all the logic. It will know which sequence should I use to generate these elements. The best part is it will not occupy additional space. If this student list over here is small, it could have been very large. So if X stores this list of tuples, so that could have been consuming a lot of memory. So nothing is stored in X except for the logic, through which it knows how to access the next element. So look at this. Now, if I try and access the loop once again, let's see what happens. It fails because it has consumed the elements. It did not store. All the elements were already generated. So you cannot cycle through it once again. The iterator has reached to the end. We have generated and consumed those data that it has generated. If you want to generate it again, you'll have to create that generator object once again. I say. Once I create the generator object, now you can cycle through the contents. Is that okay?
सर एक बार X प्रिंट कीजिए.
क्या?
X प्रिंट करो.
It's just one object. Even if I say print X, just one object. This object is not storing this data. Although when I'm cycling through the object, I'm getting the data. Rather, this object, this enumeration object, which is a generator, knows how to generate this sequence. So it will generate those sequence of values rather than storing those sequence of values. Have you understood?
Yes.
So there's a difference between storing the data in the memory. You may find क्या फर्क पड़ता है. आज 3 एलिमेंट्स है, कल 3000 एलिमेंट्स होंगे. तो 3000 एलिमेंट्स do you want to store in the memory or do you want to generate them on the fly?
Generate.
Generate them. So this is far more better way. But this was a ready-made generator. I'm going to teach you how to create your own generators, which will generate over a period some sequence of values. Suppose I want all the Fibonacci numbers. हर बार नया next Fibonacci number चाहिए. तो generate करके list में क्यों store करें? With the generator, I can say, give me the next one, yield, give me the next one, give me the next one, give me the next one. Just keep on giving you the next element. Let us do something. Look at that. So I'm doing something. I know the internal implementation, so I'm doing that. तो अगर जनरेटर होता है ना, तो जनरेटर को पता होता है उसका नेक्स्ट एलिमेंट क्या है. तो x डॉट नेक्स्ट, उसका नेक्स्ट एलिमेंट क्या है, 0 अनिता. अगली बार नेक्स्ट कहूंगा 1 सुनीता, अगली बार नेक्स्ट कहूंगा 2 नीता, अगली बार नेक्स्ट कहा तो कुछ है ही नहीं. स्टॉप इटरेशन खत्म हो चुका है. So we will learn how to create these generators. All the methods which starts with underscore are magical methods. They are called as dunder, next dunder. Dunder, that underscore is called as dunder. These are magical methods. So it is generating the next. As I was telling you, I want the next Fibonacci number, next one. So get me the next element, and next element. These methods are not directly accessible because these are private methods. But since I know it is there, we could check it out. And other way to check it out is like, suppose BIR. So these are all the methods which are present inside it. Class, dog, EQ, str, size of. And I used one method called as next. ये G मतलब greater than, LT मतलब less than, any मतलब not equal to, ऐसे सारे. And size of B है. That's 56. 56 is बात की, I don't know. We'll have to check. 56 क्यों आया है. देखो, अब मैंने नीता की जगह प्रणीता भी ऐड कर दिया. Ideally, what has happened? The object size should have increased, but nothing of that sort has happened. Let's increase this size even further. प्रणीता के साथ और किसी को ऐड कर लेते हैं. तो प्रणीता है and जाता है, मैं ऐड किया जा रहा. I create a enumerator object, and if I look at the size, it's still 56. The object is not storing the data. It has the logic as to how to generate. But now let me call next function 4-5 times. Next Anita, Sunita, Nita, Pranita, Sujata. Jada elements generate here. But now it has given more number of data. But has the size increased? Size पहले भी 56 था, अभी भी 56 है.
Then sir, what that size contains?
Showed दो ना, whatever it may be, don't have to worry. But did that object size increase? I got more elements now. Okay, but the point is the object size of that object X did not increase because it is not storing the data. वो data storing नहीं कर रहा है. It is generating the next data. Size of is a common function that is there. Those who come from C language, you know, it's a function that will give you the size of that object. But here the size is not changing. And why is it not changing? Because it is not storing that additional data inside it. So it knows there is a list somewhere, उसका address रहेगा. उस list में जितने भी elements I just have to generate the next element with the index. So first element with the index, second element with the index, third element with the index, fourth element. So think about it. It is an object which stores the logic as to how to generate the next element in the sequence. It does not store data, it appears to store data because when you cycle it just keeps on giving you the data. So we are under the impression as if the data was stored, but actually there is no data that is stored. So that's the beauty of generators. Understood this already? अरे हाँ ना, कुछ तो बोलो.
Yes, sir.
वस्तु क्या डाउट है? Now it's assignment time. Take the question as an assignment. उसे solve कीजिएगा. Till the time I'll configure the ID. Let me think about a question for you. I search for a question for you. let me cover some. I just forgot to discuss some very important aspect. And no, there was no point in installing the latest version of Spider. I installed the latest version of Spider. It is also again having support for 3.8 only by default. Let's try and set the new version and see. The last did not allow you to set the new version. Let us see, at least this one allows you to store the new version or change the interpreter. You could try it at your end as well. Sometimes some settings somewhere that I may have done may not be allowing you to do that. For that, you need to go into Python interpreter, use whatever interpreter you like to have, say apply, okay, and let's see what happens. Error. Not allowed. So let me again go back to the same one. Doesn't have Spider kernels module or right version of it installed. Without this module, it's not possible for to speak to the console for you. You can install it by activating environment first, if necessary, and then running main system terminal and then install quick install Spider kernel 2.4. Let me try this. If it works. Yeah, yes, Spider kernel. But once a version install करता है, that's very important. It is expecting version 2.4 and above. ये बता नहीं रहा है कौन सा version install कर रहा है. Okay, let it take its own time. Meanwhile, I'll talk about the next topic. Now, for that, I need to start with Python. Can I start with Python out of the console? Let's check it out. Okay, we can start. Suppose I want to have a range of values. Yesterday, we looked at a function called as range. So I could very well say a range of 10, or I'll say R1 is equal to a range of 10. And if I do that, R1 is just a range object from 0 to 10. Just to understand 0 to 10, R1, if I say, so it is 0 to 9, because 10 is exclusive. But the problem that we had seen yesterday, even if I give the three values for creating this range object, I could say 10, comma, start is 10, stop is 100, step is 10. In that case, I would get an object which is multiples of 10. But if I wanted to have multiple of 5.5, so we saw yesterday, if I take the range and if I give the step value, the third value, which is the step value, as 5.5, it fails. Because all the three elements that we give in a range object, which are the three elements that we give in the range object? We say R1 dot start 10 R1 dot stop 100 R1 dot step 10 दिया था मैंने. I could give 3 different values, like I could just say 5. So start is 10, stop is 100, step is 5. So start is at 10, stop is 100, step is 5. But I'm not allowed to say 5.5. Sometimes we want those kind of ranges. Okay, we want those kind of ranges. That's not allowed. If I give the step value or start value or any value as float, it says float cannot be interpreted as integer. That means the range expects all the 3 parameters to be of type integer. Okay, but a range of floating point values is a very common requirement, especially when you're doing some scientific operations. In such cases, comes to a rescue a module called as NumPy, a package called as NumPy. So what is NumPy? NumPy is a fundamental package for scientific computing in Python. What does it provide you? It provides multi-dimensional array object, various derived objects such as masked arrays, matrices, everything. It allows you fast operation of arrays, including mathematical, logical, shape manipulation, sorting, selecting, IO, and all this transformation that you must have learned in the mathematics, basic statistical operation, random stimulation, much more. All those things are provided by this NumPy. So if you are actually going to work on such libraries, the first library that you should start scientific computing is a library called as NumPy. What it provides is an array object, which can be 2-dimensional, it can be 3-dimensional, whatever it is. So we are going to start, and this is another assignment for you to go through this particular article. So here, when I say a range of length or something like that, it will create a range. But then in this list, we are appending the element from that particular range. That's okay. But how about range of, and then it tells you why NumPy is fast hai, better kaisa hai, you'll get all that information. But beyond that, it's also important for us to explore the documentation that will take care of our basic requirements, wherein we wanted to create a range of elements which are having floating point values. So let's go to this array creation over here. And it says numpy.array. So there's a very interesting concept called as array that is available. But we are actually interested in concept of range, which is there. Other than this, we are interested in concept of range. So does it provide anything regarding the range? Let's see. Okay. If not over here, we'll directly see in the implementation over here. Okay, here it needed. Twenty-three point 1.2 install कर रहा है. Install. Now let's hopefully start with this once again and see spider. Okay, meanwhile, here in NumPy, we are actually interested in a function which is to do with its range. So I'll go to glossary and let's look at function which will talk about range. There's something called as X range. A range. A range. A range. So we have something called as a range. Okay. So what will this a range do? How will you use it? Let's explore. Meanwhile, this has started. Let's see the version. Connecting to kernel 3.8 hai. Let's try and change and see. I'm just trying to start a new console. अगर आ जाता है यहाँ तो ठीक है, नहीं error है तो we just revert back to the same thing. Yes, we have it. Now we have a new version of Python. How do we check now? Because last time the one option did not work for us, and that was strict. And we tried to use that option strict in which function? कहाँ use करने की कोशिश किया हमने strict?
Zip.
zip.
Let's try and do that. So I have L1 which contains some elements. I have L2 which contains some other elements. And we try to say Z is equal to zip of L1 comma L2 comma strict is equal to true and strict is equal to false. Okay, and I say star Z zip ये दो एलिमेंट हो गए. strict is equal to false. strict equal to true कहने पर it should rather generate an error. अब देखते हैं प्रिंट करके क्या आ रहा है. Error. Why error? Because both the lists are not of same size. It should generate a value error because generate error later. Argument 2 is shorter than argument 1. That's when strict is true. अगर मैं false रखता हूँ, then if I print it, it's error. So this has at last worked for us. That is, and what did we do? We saw the error message and we did carry out operation according to the error message to handle that particular issue. कहाँ थे हम लोग? यहाँ पे थे. And we're trying to use this feature. And it was generating an error. Now hopefully it doesn't generate an error at this stage. Yeah, even at this stage. Let's do it and see how it is. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't generate an error. Okay, let's jump over here and see does it generate error anymore. Strict equal to 2 का है, यहाँ 5 एलिमेंट्स है, तो प्रिंट करेंगे 1A 2B 3C 4D 5E and value error. Perfect. वो strict equal to 2 है. Strict equal false होता तो value error would not have got generated. यहाँ पे तो आ गया है value error. So it's working now. Okay. तो अगर ये हम लोग false कर देते, यहाँ नहीं होगा. यहाँ अगर हम लोग false कर देते, and if we run this particular code again, अब ये 5 एलिमेंट्स के लिए रन करेगा without value error. Let's do it. We're at line number 61. First element, second element, third element, fourth element, and fifth element, and out with now without error. अब आगे का प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करें. या strict equal to 2 है, दोनों लिस्ट एक जैसे साइज के है, no issues. Okay, so it is working. And what did we do? We first updated Spider. Then it asked us to update the kernel. We did that. And that was an error message that we saw. Then we went over here, we went to preferences. And in preferences, we selected the Python version of our choice, interpreter of our choice. Tools में गए, Python interpreter में, instead of using the default one that is 3.8, I went with 3.11. Now we can test all the latest features in Spider itself. It took us some time, but we could manage it. So don't ignore the errors. Error was telling us something. It was saying, "Arey, ye kernel available nahi hai." So we went to the command prompt and we also ensured that it's being installed. एक बार install कर लिया, pip install Spider kernel 2.4 because it was expecting 2.4 and above. तो हमने कहा equal to 2.4 point star. उसके आगे कुछ भी नहीं. 4.1, 4.2, whichever it is installed. तो इसने 4.4 install कर दिया. That's okay. Problem was taken care of. Okay. Now we are talking about range. range requires all the three parameters to be of type integer. Sometimes we want to have range which are slightly different. What can we do? So I'm going to import numpy with a short name called as np. So instead of saying numpy everywhere, I'm just going to say np. So for that, I write this statement. Let's see whether it's already there in my Python. Import numpy. It says no module called as numpy. So you don't have anything as numpy. So here, if I try and check, if I say Python, and if I say import numpy, it says I don't know anything as numpy. So we'll have to first install it again. So to install it, let's go back. I come out, and we're going to install this library, which is not a part of module which is inbuilt in Python, supplied along with Python. It is definitely available for you to install. If I go to Python doc, and we have something called as pypi, Python package indexer. And here you will have all the packages which are there. I could just say numpy. It'll tell you, okay, kaun sa version chahiye numpy ka, which one you would like to. I suppose a fundamental package for this. I'll tell you how to install this. Pip install numpy is what you will do. And I got to install currently, then it gives you all the things, source code, errors, whatever is required, it has listed everything over here. Now it's time for us to install it. So how do you install this particular numpy? We have copied the statement. I say pip install numpy. So it will install numpy so that it now can be made use of in our program. But I will have to restart Spider. So meanwhile, I just close Spider because there are some changes being done. So numpy is being installed. It's downloading numpy. I say pip install numpy. In Conda also we can do that. Anaconda में भी install करने का तरीका अलग रहेगा. So Anaconda के लिए it will tell us how to install it. It will be conda install numpy, nothing different. You could go through the project description or homepage, what you are earlier accessing, and there you could see more about this numpy. Quantum computing, statistical computing, signal processing, image processing. These are the packages makes Python so very attractive. They will reduce our work significantly. हो गया install? हो गया. Now let's start with Spider. Now while Spider starts, let's test it over here. हो गया. तो numpy में क्या क्या है? Post dear numpy. अरे बाप रे, look at that functionality that it provides. Okay, there are a lot of things which numpy will provide you. We are going to explore. There's 1 and 2 are very nice. It creates an array in which you have one element. Array in which there are two elements. So 1, 2 दिखाई दिया था मुझे. Once like we say 2 है, 2 likes. EWO. There are a lot of things that we can do. Huge number of functionalities here. Okay. Okay, Spider has started. Let's start. Last time this statement generated an error for us. Now it will no longer generate an error. It's working. So I say import numpy as np. So np is a short name given to this module called as numpy. A short name given to this module called as numpy. I start and I say for I in the range in np.arrange. Range name, arrange. 0, 4.5 and 0 is starting value, that's okay. 4.5. So 4.5 will now be my stop value and 0.5 will be my step value, which was earlier not possible for us. Now let's print the elements and see 0, 0.0, 0, 0.5, 1.0, 1.5, 2.0, 2.5 and so on. It's printing all the elements. Just to finish up with this quickly, I'll debug till here and I'll jump to that location. Look at that. Here you go. So it has generated the sequence 0.0, 0.5, 1.0, 1.5, difference of 0.5. Likewise, I say 1 से start करो, 10 पे wait करो, 2.5 का difference है. Step value should be 2.5. Perfect. I jump over here. देखिए अभी step value 2.5 क्या हुआ यहाँ 1.0. Okay. Watch करो 1.0, 3.5, 6.0 and 8.5, difference of 2.5. Now I say reversed. रिवर्स में चाहिए कैसे 5.5 से लेके 30.5 तक जाने वाले थे हम लोग with a step value is 5.5. I want reverse of it. So if I say reverse of it, what does it give us? Let's see how is the reverse range given to us. The reverse range कैसे आया 27.5, 22.0 and a 5.5 का difference 16.5, 11.0, 5.5 and so on reversed. So the range has now been reversed. I got a range of negative fractional values. 2.5 से लेके 20.5 and हर बार step below by 0.5. Perfectly valid. Everything is okay. Negative numbers का range है in descending order. Possible. Now, here I go. Guess the result over here. For this for loop, guess the result. What will it print? I'm saying numpy dot average 0, 5.5, 0.5. So how many elements will it print? Line number 44. How many elements will it print?
11.
Sure. 11 print करेगा 0.5 का difference.
10.
5 पे वेट करेगा 5.5 पे वेट नहीं करेगा 5 पे वेट करेगा. So if I jump this particular code, let's say how many elements is generated. Whether he's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 numbers. And it's 0.0 से लेके 5.0 तक with a gap of 0.5 every time. You could create any such sequence. Nobody is going to stop you. तो यहाँ 3-4 sequence हम लोग create करते हैं. यहाँ positive 2.5 से increase, यहाँ negative से start किया positive तक आ गए. 0.0, 1.0 पे stop करना है 1.01 से stop करना. तो small range, very small increments. ये देखिए सारे आगे. अब यहाँ देखिए very small increment 0.1 का increment factor है आपका. That's also possible. आगे 0.1 का increment factor है. ऐसे 0.0, 1.1 and 0.1 का increment factor है. It's your choice. क्या करना चाहते हैं आपने इसे राउंड अप करके प्रिंट कर रहे हैं हर बार. ये आ गया आपका रेंज. So point is, last time when we had taken up this concept of range, we said only integers are allowed. So if you really want to work with values other than integers and you would like to create a range, think about using a range which is available in NumPy. But the biggest and the most interesting feature of NumPy is support for multi-dimensional and arrays, actually support for arrays. So again, my advice would be for you, all of you, to at least go through the initial tutorial of NumPy. I'll just show you where the tutorial of NumPy is. And you all are from engineering background, you will have to know stats, maths, data science में कुछ काम करना है. So NumPy is one package that you cannot keep aside. We will go to learn, and here you will have a quick start tutorial for NumPy. A detailed tutorial will be here. So at least I would like you to go through this quick start tutorial for NumPy. Okay, it will give some interesting aspects about concept of arrays, how to use them, matrices, lines, and everything, slicing, everything is there. So I would request you to go through this tutorial and explore what all features are available. After all the discussion that we have done with the basic data types, it shouldn't be that difficult for you to explore this tutorial. So आपके लिए Sunday का assignment है, try and cover this tutorial. And अगर आप engineering background से हो, तो also go with MATLAB. Okay, so that could be something more. But एक basic tutorial तो करने में कोई हर्ज नहीं है. Linear algebra on n-dimensional array and saving and sharing your NumPy arrays. We could do all these things. Maths concepts clear है तो linear algebra देखिएगा. So I'll just share two tutorials. This is not compulsory. ये bonus है, अगर करोगे तो अच्छी बात है, advance है. But one tutorial that you should complete tomorrow is the fundamental tutorial. NumPy fundamentals. ये basics है. This one is must. ये compulsory. So make sure that you at least cover the basics. And if you're good in mathematics, cover the second one as well. You'll be happy because you'll get to see how Python has fantastic support for the kind of operations that you normally do in your mathematics and statistics. अच्छा support है. If you like plotting other things, explore MATLAB as well. But at least the basic tutorial कल के लिए cover कर लीजिएगा. In addition to those assignments which are pending. Meet tomorrow, solve those assignments, discuss them, and go through this tutorial as well. So with that note, we'll stop over here today. We'll meet again on Monday. Again, I'll be taking iterative constructs on Monday, but complex level. Nested loops is what I'll take up on Monday, some examples. So that after that, we'll go ahead with functions, another very important topic in any programming language. So with that note, I'll stop over here today. See you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.